In Devil May Cry 5, legendary devil hunter Dr. Dante from the Devil May Cry series teams up with his deadweight nephew Nero and Adam Driver to dispatch some of the craziest demons in the series. With insane, crazy, stylish gameplay for 3 characters and one boring one, we're treated to an incredible game that has become a bit of an addiction for me over the past few months. You know when you find something that just jams with you on a spiritual level? Well, for me, that seems to be using a robotic grapple hook arm to pierce 2 giant bugs and then swing them around in circles while sick music plays in the background. Anyway, I've been wanting to talk about the game, but I'm not really the type of guy to go mega in depth about game mechanics and the design of every move, and I'm also not a seasoned style god like some of the other game's fans out there. So I thought I'd go for the easy cliché option, talking about the game's big bad boys, and oh boy is there quite a few of them to talk about.
So, Devil's Cry, huh? Let's hear what that sounds like! Oh, I get it. Who brought the marshmallows? 'Cause I'm bringing the fire.
Is it bad that I've started saying this on a pretty regular basis? Devil May Cry 5 does have an excellent roster of bosses, but it doesn't really get off to the most high-flying of starts. The roots of the classic example of a stationary object boss. An occasional tentacle swing will teach that you do have to occasionally press a button other than triangle, but this guy mainly exists as a playground for using Nero's moveset on a single target. On higher difficulties there might be an occasional enemy spawn to mix things up for the whole of 15 seconds, but nothing's really going to raise this to more than a hit, 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 jump, hit, hit situation. So I think this is the originator of all those weird orifice doors scattered around the first few levels, the ones where you've got to insert a creepy little seedling thing to get past. Everything I just said isn't really important to the boss fight, but I do feel like it sets the tone well for how fucking nauseated this boss has me feeling. Needhog I do kinda despise a little bit. In function, it's a very similar encounter to the roots. Dodge the tentacle strikes and aim for the targets. This guy, and these guys. The difference is, this time you've got to use Edgar Allan poetry over here, so the fight basically boils down to you moving around reading of mice and men while spamming attacks from a distance, which I'll be honest, it's not massively entertaining. But the issues don't just come down to V not being particularly fun to play, because if you've tried this boss with any of the other characters, good luck hitting him. He's a bit of a bastard in that way. There was a huge temptation to leave this guy at the bottom of the list, but I guess you've got to appreciate there's actually some mechanics on display here. I'll just say he's ranked higher than the roots due to the fun little wobble animation he has during the cutscene when he talks. So Proto-Angeloni's 69 disciples make up the only encounter on the list that isn't really a boss, but anything to lower this fucker's ranking I guess. He's more like a pumped up recurring enemy with a girthy health bar and a small following of speed bumps with swords. It is undeniably a fun encounter with the boss room skeeting all over the place like a minecart on a bunch of redstone rails, and the knight's big lightning sword attacks and the sheer amount of stylish shit you can pull off on them do make it a pretty interesting encounter, but it ultimately doesn't measure up to the rest of the competition. Most of the rest of the competition.
Hey guys, where you been? I thought you went back into Vergil. You're gonna wish you did.
Here they are. The Shadow Wizard Money Gang rolling up on our wacky woohoo pizza boy to add some nightmarish nostalgia to his day. This is the only boss in the last stretch of the game that I don't really care for, but I can't say that it's bad. It's pretty balanced for a 3 versus 1, and I appreciate the fact that you're not constantly being pegged from off the screen. It is like the only time in the game where I feel like I can actually make use of the shotgun's gunslinger moves, and you'll see them use all the attacks that you can use when you play as V. Usually they're combined in a much more strategic way than I do when I play V, but I'm pretty sure that it's important to the lore that these guys finally die here. But overall my opinions on this one are pretty limited. I do consider myself an average horse enjoyer. Yes, that footage is from a Lloyd's advert, and I'm a firm believer that putting something that's already cool on a horse does in fact make it cooler. However, I have to admit that this boss does not fit the rule. You encounter the rider, Mr. Cavalier Angelo, much later in the game as Dante after he's just woken up from a month-long coma, and you have one of the most badass stylish scraps the game has to offer. But here, you're just kind of V. Yeah, I'm not above saying that this isn't a compelling boss because you're playing as an emo with scoliosis. It's another of those bosses where it doesn't really feel like you're doing a lot. Admittedly, if one of your demon buddies does die, it leaves you feeling a bit naked, and it's cool when the horse whips out Zawardo and stops the clock on your ass, but ultimately this is just the best design boss of the V missions.
Hours of folly are measured by the clock, but of wisdom, no clock can measure. God.
Where's Dante? No body? No dried up Dante jerky? Nothing?
You've come here to die.
Big Bad Urizen pretty much progresses through the game with you. Pretty much every 4 or so missions you have a scheduled checkup with the guy to make sure that you know what's going on with the plot and that he's not the nicest of the game's fellas. The fight being showcased here is one of the 2 variations I consider actually important. The other one will appear much later, making this the less interesting one of the 2. Understandable really, considering all you have to do here is dish out damage on this big crystal thing while dodging a combination of magic attacks. There's a laser from side to side, spikes from the ground, lasers from the sky, spikes from the crystal, all which can get pretty messy if you're not paying attention enough. But by far the most annoying and cinematic is the fucking Zack Snyder grenade, which creates a slow motion AoE and basically guarantees you getting hit by the next attack. I quite like this fight, but I think there's way better in the game. I do feel like this is the first real skill check in the game though. You can cruise through like the first 7-ish missions, but I think this is the first boss that will really overwhelm people who aren't fighting it the right way.
Whoa. He's too big to leave alone. Better take care of it.
Hear me out, hear me out. I don't think a lot of people really respect this boss because there's not too much going on or whatever, but I'm actually quite the fan. Not only does it start with Nero doing some badass shit, but there's a lot to enjoy here despite how simple it is. Maybe my tiny deadweight brain is really easy to stimulate, but I really enjoy shooting the leg bits and grappling up to the weak spot on the back. It's not massively complex, and there's not even much threat of getting hit, but this is my type of spectacle boss. Cool design, easy mechanics, and basic monkey brain stimulation.
I'm coming.
Hi, Coming. I'm Dad. I'm not sure of how one single being can manage to be both obese and skeletal at the same time, but Malthus manages to walk that line pretty well. Maybe I quite like the Shadow Realm chicken. Maybe I'm just a bitch for visual design, but I like how atmospheric this fight is. There's a lot of cool attacks here where she'll whip out a portal gun and try to cut you slack in. Hey, hold up, buddy. For lack of a shirt is no excuse. Control yourself. Mostly, you've got to stay on the move and charge up your gunshots. There's always opportunities to reel yourself in and go for some proper damage though. After V sends you a little treat, the bird reads the McDonald's menu and starts going goblin mode, launching at you like a fucking freighter train, and these charges are no joke. But you remember that little Devil Breaker V drop down? That's Gerbera, and if you get a good hit on the bird mid-charge, you'll be rewarded with a heavy stun. If you've got the Buster Arm, use that shit and stamp that bitch out, adding a dominatrix style edge to your smoking sexy combo. Malthus can get a little on the infuriating side on the harder difficulties. As mentioned before, the damage the charge does is criminal and will reduce you to atoms pretty quickly, but use the right strategies and you can have some good fun with it. Anyway, point in case and case in point, make like Colonel Sanders and Kentucky Fry this chicken. I don't know what the hell this thing is, but goddamn does it make for a fun encounter. You know in Dark Souls where you get those flying enemies and they jump away from you, then fly around, then shoot out random bullshit? Well, Artemis does exactly that. But this is Devil May Cry, meaning like all good games you get a sick ass grapple arm and can chase your target down to dish out the damage. This is another boss that is perfectly designed for Nero. Along with the grapple, you've got really good air maneuverability, combos, and the cheeky gun for extra damage. The boss itself, outside of having a really cool design, isn't too complex, but make sure to make you put some effort in. The attacks are usually lasers or charges, but these are nowhere near as downright outrageous as Malphas's. There's also some sort of ultimate attack where you have to destroy the drones and grapple up to the glowing boss. I'm not actually sure what this does as it takes around 3 working days to charge her, so even if you do accidentally press forwards triangle 4 times, you should still be able to down the beast before being wiped out. Fun boss, and even better, you're rewarded with a filthy when you win. Hot take, guys, but I think Nero is my favourite character.
Don't you dare say it!
Goliath makes his entrance by helpfully flinging a van at our boy Nero, setting the scene for our true introductory boss fight. Once you see the giant fiery monkey monster, you know you're in for a cheeky bit of carnage. The fight starts and you get to go macho on macho, I think that's the right saying, with this big bastard on the roof of this soon to be destroyed building. After a bit of slapping you around, he'll dive bomb both your asses inside. The environmental destruction on display here is insane. Rubble flies all over the place and you actually feel like you're facing off with a really powerful and threatening demon, making Nero seem like even more of a badass than he's already been hyped up to be. But don't take your eyes off the big boy for too long, because he's about to unleash his special move, the Vor Laser. You want to avoid this shit at all costs, otherwise he's going to have no problem proving to you that he's happy to swallow and spit. The options you've got left if you do get caught is to sacrifice one of your precious devil breakers, or become a fiery stain on the courtyard floor. But once you do find your rhythm here, you'll be enjoying one of the best big bastard boss fights I can think of. Launching around with a grapple hand, narrowly escaping attacks, and cutting this guy up piece by piece, the real Devil May Cry 5 starts here. Once you finally descend the Quailoff, well, I think that's what's happening in these levels, you finally meet the locals, Daisy, Darling, and Princess, and for some reason they've all merged into one being. Dr. Doggy Style here is a story of 3 movesets. When he gets fiery, he likes to get all up in your face, so do your best to dodge and keep your behind covered at all times. Vanilla Ice Mode is about trying to figure out if you can actually do anything. A lot of the time he just spams this Ice Rain move as you run around, and it doesn't feel like it gives you a lot of options for stylistic expression. And then there's the Electric Mode, which is surprisingly just pretty chill. I've had a few different experiences with the King of the Cerberus. There's been a few times where he's ripped me a new one and I haven't been able to find the right way to unleash the goblin within on him, but there's also been a few times where I've chewed through the health bar with a strategy I like to call the Oppenheimer method. The trick here is when he's charging up, you need to get the fuck out. When he's choosing his new favourite element, one of the heads will be a special spot. Load up the Mega Rocket and pat that head with as much destructive force as possible to show him he's a good boy. Now he's on the ground, dish out the heat and rinse and repeat. This isn't a strategy I've had a ton of success replicating, which to me proves him to be a pretty well designed boss. He's not going to simply submit, and this pooch will make sure he puts up a proper fight before you turn him into a stick. While it takes him like majority of the game, Urizen does eventually pick his bitch ass out the lazy boy. Difference is now, he actually feels like the main villain. Mission 17 is literally just you versus him, and it's a pretty fucking hard mission. Combine all the magic shit he was doing in the first few fights with a few new demon donkey punch combo attacks, and you've got a boss that pretty much demands you style switch like a psychopath to make any sort of progress. He has a metric foot ton of health and does the same in damage too, so it's pretty important that you use everything you know in order to try and take this guy down. The good thing is, this isn't just a difficulty spike, this is a well balanced fight that increments the difficulty throughout the phases. Phase 1's pretty simple, Phase 2 adds a few more moves, and Phase 3 is fucking insane. Remember how you started the fight in a nice green open field? Well yeah, now everything's bloody and depressing, and the second he gets a chance, Urizen's gonna spawn spikes everywhere to penetrate you in every... what the fuck? On top of this, his boxing combos now take off the restrainers. You'll get hit 1, 2, 3, 4 times and your health bar will be gone like that. What I recommend is store up that Sin DT. Once you use it at the end of the fight, you should have just enough power to slice straight through it and on to the next mission. Thank you, bye bye. The first challenge Dante stumbles into as a playable character is this now horseless knight in shining armour. This is the perfect placement, as not only do you get to try out an OG Devil Hunter, but you also get to experience one of the most badass scraps of the game so far. The Cavalier just oozes cool. You can't really go wrong with a huge purple lightning sword, but the sick one-on-one with another Blade Master makes this battle kino as fuck. The moveset starts pretty simple. There's a few different sword combos, lightning attacks for when you're far away, and teleports to mix up the pacing of the battle. Throughout, not too many new moves are introduced, but instead it gets faster. He mixes up his combos more, teleports more frequently, and buffs up with the attempt of getting in some cheeky damage. What makes the fight so fun is just how many different ways you can deal with it. You can hit his sword strikes away to parry them, or you can royal guard them and build up a huge release. The range stuff you can roll away from, trickster away from, trickster up to him, and then just getting close to do some extra damage. All I'm saying is there's a reason that this is the boss where there's so many 2-minute videos on YouTube absolutely wrecking the shit out of him, because this fight is all about the style points. And it probably helps that this guy gives you the most ridiculously insane weapon in the franchise. Like, straight up, who designed this? They deserve the world. I genuinely think the military should start putting these bad boys into mass production. Alright, so just a little spoiler alert. The top 2 spots belong to the 2 Sons of Sparda, and I have to give the second place smoking sexy silver medal to our red boy Dante. Now I want to say straight away that both these bosses are awesome, and pretty similar as they're like the inverse of each other. They're 2 of the best bosses in any of the games I've ever played, purely down to the sheer badassery on display. But in my opinion, Vergil just has the slight edge. But that's nothing against Dante. I'm about to list all the things you have access to whilst playing as Dante. Alright. You've got 4 melee weapons, 4 ranged weapons, 4 combat styles to switch between on the fly, all with special abilities and extra moves, a power-up mode, and a powered-up power-up mode. Did I miss anything? Now imagine playing against that. POV, you are the demon getting styled on by the main protagonist. That's pretty much what playing against Dante is like. He has a million odd moves that he can weave in and out of combos to stunlock and punish your ass. There's almost an overwhelming amount of stuff to react to and figure out how to counter. But luckily, it's all scripted to just the right amount of perfection. The fight isn't scripted in that you can memorise each pattern and predict every next move like Joseph Joestar, but it is scripted to a point where some moves are more likely to combo into others, and certain super attacks are gonna happen at certain points of the health bar. This gives you suitable breathing time to digest and actually learn the fight, and instead of fighting an unpredictable madman with infinite moves, you're fighting an unpredictable madman that just feels like they're cycling through a number of phases. I think Dante is about as detailed as you can make a boss without making it stupid. You get to square up in the most cinematic, over-the-top balls-to-the-wall 1v1 of all time, but just this time you're fighting on the slightly, and I really feel the importance of emphasising slightly, less fun side. Plus, Bury the Light is awesome. Like, I listen to this shit whilst brushing my teeth, I listen to it while walking to the dentist, I listen to it while... At its least complex, Devil May Cry 5 is a game about Vergil hiring Vergil's brother and Vergil's son to hunt Vergil, so that Vergil can merge with Vergil and finally become Vergil. So it actually makes sense that Vergil is the best boss in the game, because this is basically his game. Throughout Mission 19, you'll experience the true power of a £5 DLC character firsthand. That includes numerous humiliating deaths, anime katana slashes, unending devil trigger combos, bullshit stun attacks, heat-seeking predator missile charges, motivated taunting, and most likely getting judgment nutted all over by the single coolest attack in all of gaming. And it's fucking awesome. Vergil is what every video game final boss needs to be. He's cool, difficult enough to be super rewarding to defeat, but will never make you feel like you need to destroy your controller and disembowel everyone within an 18-meter radius. Well, not for me, some people out there are just a tad crazy, man. Every time Vergil puts my ass to bed, I think, and I realise, it wasn't unfair. He didn't cheat. I just simply wasn't as much as a stylish dapper fellow as I needed to be, and then I'm motivated to do better. Vergil is a crucible. There's initially this immovable obstacle, this mountainous challenge, but after a number of deaths you study him, you study what he does, where his combos lead, and you learn. You learn to exploit the short windows, take your opportunities, and eventually you win. And then you get to clap its cheeks as Nero. Pulling up and stomping his ass as my boy Nero is probably the most satisfying end to a video game I've ever experienced. Where you were previously getting sniped by slicers, double teamed by shadow jutsu, and experiencing head-on collisions with lightspeed rams, you now get to catch that boy and suplex his ass straight down to France. You finally realise the true message of Devil May Cry 5. This isn't a game about Vergil hiring Vergil's brother and Vergil's son to hunt Vergil. This is a game about Nero being promoted from deadweight to badass. It's about bitch slapping old people, and it's about taking the child support you're well and truly entitled to by force. Thank you, Vergil Boss Fight, for teaching us this very important life lesson. And thank you to you guys for forcing yourself through the video. It's a first effort from me, and there's definitely a million improvements that can take place here, so if you guys have suggestions, send them my way. All I really want is to make cool videos about the cool stuff I enjoy, so if you've got any ideas on how to make that more enjoyable for you guys, then I'd want to know. With that said, there'll be more Devil May Cry stuff coming eventually, and in the meantime I'm sure there's some other games I can look into making some videos on. Anyway, that's everything. DMC5 is a banger, thanks for watching.